Reparations, it means the making of amends for a wrong that's been done by paying money to or otherwise helping those who've been wronged. Reparations for the descendants of American slaves is an idea floated in various forms since the passage of the 13th Amendment after the Civil War outlawing slavery. But after decades of scattered talk about it from time to time, the concept, if not practice, of reparations has now become a unifying principle in the crowded field of candidates seeking the Democratic nomination for president in 2020. I'm Tim Donner with 5 facts about reparations and how such an idea might be put into practice. Fact 1. Virtually all of the Democratic presidential candidates support or accept the concept of reparations in some form. There is much discussion but little or no debate among Democrats about this issue. Many of the almost 20 candidates have openly supported reparations and none have renounced it. The question among Democrats is not whether reparations are an appropriate policy, but in what form they should become policy. Fact 2. Reparations would likely be made in the form of payments to minority communities and those who can prove they are descendants of slaves. Presidential candidate Cory Booker has sponsored a bill that would establish a commission to study the impact of slavery and continuing discrimination against Black Americans and make recommendations on reparation proposals for the progeny of slaves. Bernie Sanders, dismissive of reparations in 2016, calling it divisive, now concurs. Amy Klobuchar said, "We have to invest in those communities that have been so hurt by racism," but she provided no further details. So while these candidates and the others in the crowded field have supported the concept of reparations, nothing beyond the establishment of a commission to study it has yet been put in the form of legislation. Fact 3. Affirmative action programs were written into law as a form of reparations. There are no exact numbers to quantify the results of opportunities granted to minorities and women in affirmative action programs, which took hold in the 1970s and have been steadily cemented into the fabric of American life in the almost 50 years since. But we certainly know that this preferred treatment of minorities in an attempt to reverse historical discrimination did result in millions of such opportunities, as was the intent of these programs. Whether affirmative action is justified preferential treatment or actually just a different form of discrimination than the one it seeks to reverse is a question still vigorously debated almost half a century later. And we still haven't settled the issue of whether affirmative action constitutes sufficient payment for any debts owed by society. Fact 4. The nation's first Black president did not support reparations. Barack Obama stated, quote, "I fear reparations would be used as an excuse for some to say we've paid our debt and to avoid the much harder work of enforcing anti-discrimination laws in employment and housing, lifting people out of poverty, improving public education, and rehabilitating young men coming out of prison." And that brings us to fact 5. Reparations are rare in history. Historically, the term reparations dealt primarily with the indemnification of states ravaged by war, such as those who were victimized by the Germans after World War I. In the aftermath of World War II, however, the term began to acquire a broader meaning, extending beyond wartime to the domestic actions of a state. There are 2 primary historical examples of reparations. The biggest was Germany's payment to Holocaust survivors of the equivalent of almost $9 billion in today's dollars. The U.S. also offered a modest $20,000 to each of the more than 80,000 Japanese Americans detained in internment camps during World War II. Reparations have slowly creeped into political conversation ever since then. President Lyndon Johnson declared in 1965 that, quote, "Freedom is not enough. It is not enough just to open the gates of opportunity," unquote. And Johnson vowed to rectify the economic disadvantage blacks faced in a speech considered a harbinger of affirmative action. Since that time, the trickle of interest in reparations has become a wave in the Democratic Party, and you can well expect to hear a lot about it in the upcoming presidential debates. Please subscribe to the LibertyNation.com YouTube channel for more of these 5 Facts videos, plus Truth TV, author interviews, our podcasts, and Liberty Nation Radio, plus our newest project, our weekly Election 2020 Roundtable. Look for that and subscribe to the LibertyNation.com YouTube channel, because truth is making a comeback. I'm Tim Donner. Thanks for watching.